Hi Kieran, how you going?
Yeah, good, thanks.
So we're here today to have a bit of a chat about Working Start, a program that we've been working on. My name's Monique and I'm from Good Beginnings Australia. And
I'm Kieran Kevins, I'm the coordinator of Glebe Youth Service.
So Kieran, tell us a bit about what's been happening at Glebe, this very exciting project called Working Start.
Yeah, thanks Monique. In Glebe, we've got a high proportion of young people who experience complex and challenging issues. One of those issues is struggling to gain meaningful and sustainable employment. Through our Working Start program, we've been able to build relationships with employers and support young people not just to connect with the employer and get a job, but support them and encourage them to find out what sort of work they want to do, support them to apply for work, and then support them to keep that work through mentoring and support.
So you've had some early successes. Tell us about those.
Yeah, look, we've had great success through working with Mirvac at the Harold Park development site. Two young men approaching first year of their construction carpentry apprenticeship. We've also developed a new relationship with Harris Farm, and very early days, but the signs are positive for a young man who started with them.
Where is their interest across other parts of Sydney?
Look, through our conversations with other Sydney Alliance members from other parts of Sydney, there's a lot of interest. And I think what we're hearing is that for those communities who've got large numbers of disadvantaged people, they may be newly arrived persons, they may be refugee status, they may come from different cultural backgrounds, or just generally disadvantaged, they need that extra intensive support to get and maintain employment.
What do you need from the government in order for there to be more success with this program?
Sure. Look, what we want to do is employ employment support coordinators who go beyond the typical job network model. This is a person employed specifically to address the employment needs of young people, to support them to gain employment, to build relationships with employers, maintain that relationship with employers, and then be an off-site mentor and support person for the young person once they've gained work. And that's critical that they stay with that young person well into that work period. So from the government, what we'd like to ask is for $150,000 per year for 3 years, $450,000 to employ an employment support coordinator, and we'd also like to ask $50,000 to evaluate and give us an evidence base for how that program, how effective that program is.
And what about making it more Sydney-wide? How can the government help us with that?
Look, we'd like to ask the government to support to explore a cross-portfolio expansion of the program and look at other high needs areas where they might be able to take what we've done here in Glebe and adapt it, but essentially duplicate it, tweak it to their local needs and roll it out in other areas.
Having this employment support worker, what will it solve?
So what it does is it gives disadvantaged young people who would not otherwise be able to navigate the pathway to meaningful employment and to establish a career.
My name's Serena Falston and I work for Cancer Council New South Wales, and I'm also one of the campaign coordinators for the Transport Research Action Team. The Transport Research Action Team have been working over the last couple of years on what are the primary issues that are faced by the members of the Sydney Alliance, the parishioners of churches and the members of unions and the volunteers at community service organisations. And what's primarily come through is that public transport is a major issue for them. They want to be able to get to their doctor's appointments, they want to be able to get to work safely and affordably. So that the feedback has formed the three issues that the transport team will be campaigning on going into the state election. The first issue is around the airport and that usage fee to access the train stations at the airport. Currently there's a $12.60 fee on top of the train fare to use those train stations. It's more expensive to travel from the CBD to the airport than it is to travel from the CBD up into the Blue Mountains, and that's outrageous. So we're calling on the government to commit to removing that train usage fee at the airport. Our second ask is around park and rides, and in particular a park and ride facility at Pipita, which is where the rail line near Olympic Park crosses over both the M4 and Parramatta Road. And then if there was a train station built there, it could run as an express service into the CBD in under 20 minutes. So our ask to the government is for them to conduct a feasibility study into providing a park and ride at that location. Our third ask is around accessible train stations. Currently there's about 196 train stations in the Sydney network, but only 96 of those are fully accessible. So while the government is doing well by having an access program, they are behind their own deadlines in meeting the standards that they've set. So we would like the government to respond and how they plan to get things back on track and to meet their own deadlines on that. The second ask is around, for the Minister for Transport, around making the process for which train stations are made a priority for a lift public, which it currently is not. And finally, and probably most importantly, we'd want the Minister for Transport to commit to making all train stations on the Sydney Trains network fully accessible by 2020.
Hi, my name is Charles Rich, and I'm a team leader at Settlement Services International and the coordinator for the housing campaign at Sydney Alliance. Today we're here to talk about the asks for the housing campaign. We have 3 asks, and the first one is asking the state government to set formal targets around social and affordable housing growth. New South Wales is the only state without these targets, and with the rise of people experiencing homelessness in Sydney and the housing waiting list jumping to over 57,000 applicants, it's time that we demand the government to do something about it. We have to have government intervention in order to solve this crisis. Number 2 is asking the government to establish a shared equity scheme. A shared equity scheme would be a system where a first home buyer can purchase a house in partnership with a community housing provider, therefore potentially cutting the cost of mortgages in half. And the third one is removing the cost of stamp duty for the purchase of existing dwellings for first home buyers. This will significantly decrease the barriers that first home buyers face. We recognize that none of these are silver bullet solutions, but we'd like to start the ball rolling on conversations on how we can change society for the common good. So thank you for coming to the table talk today. I hope you have fun getting to know each other and sharing your stories so we can start to work together to build our ideal Sydney.